behind us. Going moose hunting.
So just so you know, you don't need a great big huge truck in order to go hunting. I used to have a Toyota Corolla and I brought home a whole bunch of deer in that thing. I put them in the back seat, wrapped in a tarp, and I gotta tell you, I got a lot of looks at the tagging station. People would come look through the windows and shake their heads and say, "Only in Maine."
And here we go in Maine in our Subaru to get a moose. Go figure. Who'd have thought? I just want to give a little heads up that I do show some of the gutting of the moose in this video. So if you're not into that, you could either just listen or don't watch the video. I think it's important to know where our meat comes from. That's something I'm very adamant about. Like, just you go to the grocery store and it's all wrapped up and pretty, but that was a live animal at one time. And you can see in this video a picture of the heart. River's holding it, and that's a moose heart. It's really big, and this wasn't even like the hugest moose. There were some moose that were almost twice that size that people got, but this was kind of the average size moose. That's a big heart, and River and I actually ate that for like 4 meals. That provided 4 meals for us, just the heart itself. So I just wanted to put that in perspective for people so that they could see how much meat that is. But also, like I said, if you're not really into the blood and guts of it, I totally get it. Totally get that. But this is real life. This is where meat comes from, and I did want to show that perspective on here. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do that. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can see all our future content about other hunts that we do and our house building project and all sorts of other fun things. So, hey guys, we're on our way home from our moose hunt, and we got a moose. It's Thursday. We actually got the moose on Wednesday morning around 9 o'clock. We had the week from October 14th to October 19th was when our moose hunt was. We were up in the Great North Woods, and it was beautiful up there. We went with a guide service, and he got us on a lot of animals. We had, by Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock, we had seen 11 moose, 5 bulls, 6 cows, and we actually saw like a half a moose because we saw the end of it as it was crossing the street. We saw 3 bears, a beautiful buck, and lots of grouse. So we also did some bird hunting while we were moose hunting. So I wanted to give a little backstory on why I didn't end up shooting the moose, even though it was my tag. So in Maine, when you get a moose tag, you have a permittee, which was me, and then you get to bring a sub-permittee with you, and River was my sub-permittee. And either of you can shoot the moose. It doesn't matter whether it's you or your partner, but it can't be anybody else. So one of us had to be the ones who shot the moose. So I had worked myself up like, I'm gonna get this moose. This is my tag. I was really excited about it, but I could not pull it together fast enough. I hadn't anticipated that we would be driving around so much, and when you're in a vehicle, you can't have your gun loaded. So even though I had my clip with my 3 bullets in it, and all I had to do was basically like jam it into the gun and then load it, I just couldn't pull it together fast enough, and that was kind of heartbreaking for me. And then I think I had put so much into that I was going to be the one who shot this moose, and I'd put a lot of pressure on myself, and I ended up getting a really, really bad headache on Tuesday, like so bad that we went back for lunch, and I went and laid down because they're like, "Are you hungry?" And I was like, "No, I just need to lay down." I felt nauseous. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, my headache was so bad, I took some ibuprofen, which I really tried not to take because it's not good for your gut. But I had to because I was in so much pain. So I went and laid down for a couple hours, and after I woke up, I was just like, all right, I have put all this pressure on myself that this is the way it's gonna be, and I'm clearly not at a point in my hunting career where I can make this shot. And the other thing is I really want to make an ethical shot, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't just wound an animal. I really wanted to just make a clean shot, and all the bulls that we'd had an opportunity to shoot, I hadn't felt like I could make the shot I wanted to make. So that was one of the reasons that I decided that River could take the first shot. So that's where we're at. Anyway, I was glad I made that decision because the last thing I wanted to do was come home without a moose at all. That would have been horrible. So River shot the moose, and we came home with meat. Yay! I mean, that's the best outcome for a hunt, right? So anyway, I made that decision on Tuesday afternoon after passing on 3 bulls because I wasn't able to get everything in place fast enough. 2 of which were smallish, and 1 of which had like one of the most beautiful racks I've ever seen. I mean, that would have looked really good on our wall, not gonna lie. But so Wednesday morning, we're out, we've driven up all these other roads where we've seen all the other bulls and everything, and we drove by this huge cutting because there's lots of logging had been done up there. What are those called?
The guy called them strip cuts.
Strip cuts. So we drove by this strip cut, and we was like, "Oh, can you back up?" We looked down.
Well, I saw what looked like a large black hole in the middle of the strip cut, which, if you've ever seen a root ball of a tree that's been turned up and it looks all black in the distance, it's kind of what it looked like. It was about the size for a moose, but I couldn't really tell whether it was a moose or a root ball. So we had the guy back up, and he had the same thought as well, that questioned as to whether that was a moose or not.
Yeah. And then I saw it move, like it put its face down like it was going to eat. I said, "Oh, yep, that's a moose." So River jumped out of the truck. He's so much faster than me. Jumped out of the truck, got his gun, and sighted in to make sure it was a bull, because that was the other question. We didn't want to shoot a cow.
Well, yeah, that'd be...
Because we have a bull tag, we don't have a cow tag.
Yeah.
You get fined if you shoot the wrong kind. So River looked down, and he saw antlers, so he took a shot. It was a really long shot, 255 yards approximately. So he took the shot, and he shot twice. And what I saw, because I got out of the truck too, but all I could see, there was a lot of brush, and I'm really short, so I could just see kind of over the top of the brush, and I saw what looked like the moose go like this, like nose down, nose forward. So River and I started down. I did not take my gun, which was my first mistake. But now I know better. So we started down the hill, and we got down to the bottom, and we could see to the left, which was the direction that I'd seen the moose fall, that there was a moose standing there in the trees. And so River's looking at it, I'm looking at it, he's like not shooting it again, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh my god, I think that's a cow. I think it's a cow. I think it's a cow. She's still standing. Let's just pray that, you know, you didn't hit her. That's what I was saying. I was like, I don't see antlers. And River was thinking the same thing. He kept looking. There was a lot of trees. We're like, is it hiding? What's going on? And then I turned, and I think the moose had fallen. The one that he shot had fallen, but then it like stood up. I actually have a picture that I took of River like looking at me over his shoulder, and I am taking a picture of the moose that's behind him, the one that he shot. So the moose stood up. It must have like fallen, because what we found out was that one of his shots had hit the moose's leg and like broken tendons. So the moose probably did fall forward because its leg was damaged. So River shot it again, and we went over. And what was your first reaction when you saw the moose?
My first reaction was that it was pretty small.
It looked small,
and partly it's because the rack was pretty small. Half of its right side of its rack had been deformed. Apparently, we talked to at the tagging station, we talked to a wildlife biologist who said that when the racks first form, they're pretty soft, and so sometimes the moose will run into something or damage the rack, and then it'll harden into that misshapen shape there. Well, for a moose, it's very small. But grateful we got one, and I was grateful we could share it with Lori, and I could share it. I wish she brought her gun down here so she could have a chance of shooting it, though. It's going to feed us well over the winter. It didn't look super heavy. I was guessing it was, you know, somewhere just over 400 pounds.
I thought like 350, 300. I mean, it looked small to me. It was like, you know, and a bunch of leaves and everything on the ground, and it just looked really small. And I was a little bit sad at that moment, because I was like, oh, that's not a lot of meat. It's not, we were really hoping for a lot of meat.
You were also sad about...
I was also sad about not having brought my gun, because I could have shot it. Like, it gave me a perfect opportunity. It was broadside. It was like the shot I'd been looking for the entire time, and I had the time, and I could have shot it if I'd brought my gun downhill, but I didn't. So I was also feeling kind of sad about that. But I was really glad that we didn't take a shot at that cow. That we realized that was not the moose that we saw at the top of the hill.
When I was watching the cow, well, I didn't know at first what gender it was, so I was looking for antlers, and I didn't see any. But I was also looking to see if it appeared to be injured or whatnot. But it was not. I definitely shot the bull the first time.
Yeah.
And then ended up shooting it square in the vitals twice.
Yeah.
Once we got down the hill, and it stood up.
So anyway, it has a pretty wonky rack, which our guide teased us about mercilessly. So, as my brother said, it's unique. We're gonna go with unique. And it was not the rack I'd been hoping that we would put on our wall, but you know what? I think we're gonna put it on the wall anyway, because it has such a funny story that how could we not put it on the wall? So
I'm really grateful for to have the opportunity and to be able to shoot what turned out to be, you know, it was 510 pounds.
Which is it's actually a pretty good size moose. We were pleasantly surprised when it came in at 510 pounds. I mean, it was way more than I thought. So we'll probably get about 325 pounds of meat out of it, which is which is really good. And we brought it to a butcher. Oh, a moose just drove by us that had a nice rack. We'll probably get, about 325 pounds of meat. But we left it at a butcher up there because we didn't want to risk losing the meat by not being able to get it cold soon enough. And last night actually probably would have been cold enough, but today it's like 56 degrees as we're driving home, and like I'm looking at the moose that just drove by us, and it doesn't look like they even have ice in it.
It's sad.
It's gonna like waste the whole entire, like all that meat is gonna go to waste because it's gonna get too warm. What a waste. So anyway, we left ours at a butcher up near Ashland, and I'll have to go pick it up when it's ready. We decided to get some steaks and some burger and some sausage because we love sausage. And at this butcher shop, which looked so nice, by the way, it's one of like the cleanest butcher shops I've ever seen. It was really, really nice. I'm gonna put the link to the butcher shop down in the description because it really was one of the absolute cleanest butcher shops I've ever seen. It was pristine, really beautiful. The guy who owns it was really nice. The other people who were working for him that we talked to were really nice, very knowledgeable, and most of them were hunters themselves, so they understood about using as much of the animal as possible, and that sort of thing. So I'm really excited to get our meat back from this butcher shop. They mix their moose meat with beef because they butcher beef animals, and so they use the scraps because you need to add fat to venison to make good sausage that will be moist. So they mix it with beef. So that's good, and it's local beef, and so I was happy about that. Because one of the reasons for hunting is to provide really good food for our family, really healthy meat. That animal lived in a beautiful, pristine environment up in the woods and had, a beautiful life up there, eating lots of good food, and now it's going to feed our family, and so we're just really grateful for that. What a blessing it was to be able to go on this hunt and to have this meat to feed our family. We're super grateful. Now we're going to go home and work on the house.
And so, just to give a little perspective, we now have about half the meat we need for our annual consumption. So,
yeah,
we'll spend the fall. In a couple of weeks, the deer season will start. And between Laura and myself, we'll try to put a few deer in the freezer.
And maybe the kids, both the boys, the little boys want to hunt, so see what we can do.
And that ought to make up the balance of the meat that we need for the year.
Yep. Fingers crossed. We're gonna hope for a really great hunting season. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed our little recap of our hunt. And if you have any questions, just put them in the comments and let us know.